Hey, this is Fillmore from Nick Arcade and the soon-to-be hit Game Changers, and you're watching Birds and Swords. On guard.
Welcome to Birds and Swords, presented by The Barn. We have a very special episode today featuring two very special guests here to talk about the upcoming video game docuseries Game Changers. We have the host and narrator, nearly 4 decades in the business, perhaps best known for hosting the classic Nickelodeon show in the 90s, Nick Arcade. We have Phil Moore.
Hey.
How's it going today, Phil?
Hey, thank you, Mike. It's great to be here, man. Thanks for having me on. Man, 4 decades. For the first time, I sound as old as I am.
I was speaking to someone yesterday. It's like games have been around for 50, give or take, years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've never heard anybody put it that way. Like 4 decades. That put a stamp on, like, boom, get your AARP, Phil. Because
right. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. We also have producer of the docuseries Game Changers, produced and co-directed The Orange Years, the Nickelodeon story, amongst others, Guar. We have Scott Barber. Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Glad to be here. Yeah, and it's funny, you're talking 40 years. Every time we post something about Phil, people always say, is this man a vampire? Or what's going on? He hasn't aged. And it's true, it's so funny. Every time, without fail, it's like, okay, where is it? There it is. Phil Moore has an age. He's a vampire. What's going on?
He's gonna live forever. He's gonna see the end of video games whenever that is.
Well, listen, what you don't know is I have a portrait in my closet that's really old looking.
Very good. Well, we know you guys are busy, so we appreciate you taking the time. We were filming today, from what I understand, yes?
I'm a producer now. The funny thing is, I went from hosting game shows, and now I produce game shows. Okay. So earlier, before we started doing the broadcast here, the podcast, I was telling you I was shooting, but it was for a game show that I'm currently producing right now for Fox.
Okay, very good. But again, appreciate the time. I know you guys are both
my pleasure.
Both busy
Thanks for
guys.
having us.
Very exciting stuff with the Game Changers coming up. So let's just jump right into that, right? How did this begin, I guess? So what's the origin story behind Game Changers, and maybe how did you guys meet in collaboration with that, or was it just more of the hiring process? How did this all get started?
Well, for Scott, the origin is Scott was bitten by a radioactive spider after his uncle went. No, wait, wrong origin. I'm gonna let Scott kick this off, because literally I met Scott during the Orange Years, and this whole idea initially is what came out of his genius mind. So Scott, you take it away, and I'll piggyback on you, my friend.
Yeah, just to give a quick origin story, I directed a documentary, or co-directed a documentary called The Orange Years. It's about Nickelodeon. It's the positive one. It's focused on the era early with Geraldine Laybourne, the 80s and 90s, and that's how I was fortunate enough to meet Phil. We got to interview him. We had a great time. It was just so awesome. So after that was done, I was kind of thinking, what next? What would be really fun to do? Retro video games. I had such a fun time doing the Orange Years, taking a walk down memory lane, doing something positive. The world's such a crazy place. And so retro video games sounded really good. We had met the people that did the movies that made us while making the Orange Years. And I kind of thought, how come no one's ever done like a video game version of that? And so I said, that would be pretty cool. But the only way I would do that is if Phil Moore would be a part of it. So I contacted him, and he said he would be a part of it. So that's how it happened.
Yeah, it was interesting too when he called me. The first thing, I'm straight up with people, because the world nowadays, everybody's smart, and they can pick up somebody faking it. I told him, look, I sort of have an expiration date on video games. I play video games a lot, a whole lot up to a certain point. And then I work as a full-time producer. And so I don't really have the sort of time that I used to do them. But since he said it's really about the beginning of video games, and a lot of it's going to be dealing with sort of the retro aspect of it and lead into present day, I'm like, oh, well, I can do it. I can deal with that. If it's going to be focusing on like classic gaming and how it started leading up to where we are now, boom, I'm like, then great. I'll feel 100% legit and organic into talking about that stuff. So it was a win-win because I love video games, but I wasn't gonna try to fake it like, oh yeah, I'm playing the latest game on the PS5. I came home today and I was lucky to get dinner.
That's fantastic. If so, we chose docuseries over documentary, right? So we've got a lot of content to cover. So why is that? Was it just because of the amount of content that we wanted to insert into the series?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's so many things when you're coming up with ideas for documentaries that can't necessarily necessitate a 70 to 90-minute documentary. So many ideas, you're like, that just couldn't, support a full documentary. But with the docuseries, you can do a lot of cool stuff. The episodes are shorter, and we just thought it would be really cool. I've done a couple of documentaries, never done a docuseries. Why not? With Phil, getting to see him walk through all these different games just seemed like it would be way more fun, and it wouldn't feel padded. There's so much there that you could do a docuseries, so why not?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about doing it as a docuseries, you could spend the length of a documentary on just getting from Pong to Donkey Kong, and we're still in the infancies of gaming. Then when you take it from that aspect to how it evolved in some of the other home consoles, there was a weird moment where arcades were everywhere because that was the place to go. Then the home consoles started getting more and more sophisticated in their graphics, and the actual units became affordable. That right there in itself is like another, and you could do like you said, a 70 to 90-minute documentary on just that. We didn't want to just dissect a section of the video game experience and just do that. We want to talk about it all. By the time you get done, we'll take you from start to present day. And it's gonna take several episodes to do it. Each decade, each console. Remember going from 8-bit to 16-bit? That was huge.
Yep.
And when the Nintendo 64 came on, mic drop, and then how do you go from one to the other? That's again, each little story is a 90-minute documentary, and we wanted to make sure we gave all of the people that were involved in its inception, conception, and execution to make this wonderful world that we all sit back and enjoy. We wanted to give everybody their props, give everybody's a chance for their story to be brought to light. Video games is such a huge part of our world right now. It's really, I think it's important to understand the story of those who gave their blood, sweat, and tears to make this happen.
And as far as the format goes, I was looking at the press release. It's been compared to kind of the movies that made us, or an ESPN 30 for 30. So can you talk about that format, and maybe as a follow-up, are each of the episodes like themed by era or game or genre or impact?
That was one thing that we wanted to do that was different, in that there's a really great one on Netflix called High Score, and it kind of goes by kind of decade or genre. And we realized nobody had ever done it where each episode gets a game. This is Tomb Raider, this is Dragon's Lair, this is Myst, this is Baldur's Gate, this is Star Fox. It gives more time to spend on each game rather than just the overall movement. I thought that there was a really great segment on High Score where they talk about the 3D movement, but it's kind of all of that. It's the id guys with Doom and the Tomb Raider, their team, and Star Fox, kind of all together. And that's about 20 minutes of just that, of all of those. Whereas we're going to give like 45, 50 minutes to an hour on each game, to give every single game its due.
Let's talk about the games, right? So the ones that we have listed: Dragon's Lair, Punch Out, Wolfenstein 3D, Tomb Raider, Myst, Mortal Kombat, Centipede, and Star Fox. Is this the up-to-date list of kind of what we're going to be looking at? Yep.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Okay. Of those, I keep going back to Tomb Raider. Now, I grew up playing probably early 90s, right? So I've done Punch Out. Mortal Kombat is very near and dear to me. On our show, we talk about video game core memories all the time. 30 of them are Mortal Kombat, probably, or Mortal Kombat 2. I played in the arcade. I wanted to jump back to Tomb Raider because that game just seems like math to me. Have you ever thought of it in that aspect? That game is just nothing but math. And I loved it. It's really hard to go back and play now. But if you've spent a lot of time with the early parts of that series on the PlayStation 1, it's I need to be 3 steps back from the edge so she runs perfect and jumps and things like that. So what do you guys think about Tomb Raider, or maybe any of these that you guys might have core memories of?
Wow. I never thought about that. I'm glad you explained. My next question to you was, why do you think Tomb Raider is mad? But again, it's like, you have to be right here in order to go to the next step. I really never thought of it like that. Now when I can, I got to play it again. But you know what it proves though? See, and now I'm putting on my dad hat. Hang on, dad hat. See, all of this, I don't need school. I'm just going to be a gamer. Well, you know what? You're gonna have to learn angles, and you have to learn measurements, and you have to do a little math for some of these games. That's a really great perspective. I can tell you, me personally, Star Fox. Star Fox, it wasn't of the early games my favorite game, but man, it was a game changer. It was one of those games where if we had gotten a season 3 of Nick Arcade, we were going to put it on there. It's one of those games where because of the way you could get the fact that you could fly out and flip and then come back and then you could do a barrel roll. I mean, it wasn't 3D in like the concept of wow, it's coming out at you. It was 3D because I felt that I could control the ship in absolutely every direction imaginable. And that game right there for me, core memory, boom in my head. I mean, even popcorn is down. I'm like all of the when you shoot your thing by mistake and like Slippy would like yell at you. It was like, I mean, I never had a game yell at me before,
Right.
and it was basically, I'm paraphrasing, it was like, hey, stop it, stupid, I had never seen that before, and like I said, the ability to the way you could handle these ships. The only other thing that I felt like that about was like Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Especially when you got to when you had to on Hoth, we had to take the snow speeder and do the thing around the legs but no, Star Fox, next level. It was next level for me. I never felt such an immersive 3D control with regards to the environment ever before in a game. So that right there always sticks out to me. Like when I think of games that do it, for me, that was the one that stays in my head as like the genesis of that.
And I'm sure something that you emphasize in the docuseries is cultural impact, right? When I think of Star Fox on that level, I think of playing that at like Walmart kiosks. Like I don't have this machine yet. You're 9 years old, you're watching these
Yeah.
other kids play. Like that's the memory I have of Star Fox, is that's on kiosks and grocery stores and things like that, video stores.
Yeah, yeah. Fun. Another tragic fun fact. Had we gotten a season 2, we had already gotten before. It's now released, but back in 1994, the producers of Nick Arcade actually got the prototype to Star Fox 2, and so I actually saw that, and it was insane. It finally came out recently, but to know that it was out there and never got produced was like,
Right. Yeah, because we just got that, what, 3, 4 years ago?
yeah,
Well,
3 or 4 years
longer than
ago.
that. Yeah.
But I've seen it, and there's a place, the History of Video Game Museum, and they actually have it in there, the actual one where it almost looks like it almost looks see through, but Yeah, I've actually seen it. Actually seen it played back back in the 90s. So that was an amazing thing to witness. And when you look at it again, like they didn't put it in a different system, yet they somehow upped the graphics, the control of it. And I asked back then, like, what did they do? It wasn't like there was a brand new system to play it on. Somehow they were able to get more out of the current system that you played it on. Mine was blown. That's something I legitimately, sincerely want to know. How did they do that?
Yeah. What about you, Scott? Do you have any core memories with the games that were picked for the series?
Yeah, for sure. And that was one thing when we were deciding what games we want to put on here is what was a game changer? What aspect of this made it change things? Obviously, like Tomb Raider, that was one of the first 3D games like that wasn't like Doom or Wolfenstein, where you could see the character. And then also it had the whole cinematic aspect that so many games have nowadays. Games had a story before that, but that really had like all the cutscenes and stuff like that. And yeah, Star Fox with the FX chip, really pushing 3D. We've got Centipede. That was a game, it had the trackball. It was also one of the first games that was made by a female. And it was one of the first games that brought females into the gaming world. It was like the people that played that was 50-50 male and female. So that was something we were trying to choose, because there's a lot of games that have core memories to me. And it was hard not to pick them out of just selfish nostalgia. It's like, what's a game changer? And then also, what could we get access to? And also, what has a story? Some things, there's just, for the sake of it being a docuseries with stakes that make people get engaged, that's the thing we wanted to focus on, was the human element. It's not just a Wikipedia article. It's not just a walk down memory lane. We're treating this like any other documentary where there's characters, there's stakes, there's a story. It's the human element. So what had that? And those are the ones that we chose. So, Dragon's Lair was certainly a core memory for me. This was back in the early 80s, and you see it, and it's Don Bluth, animated by Don Bluth, and it's on a laser disc. And right. I love the fact that it's a polarizing game as well, because I can remember that. You see it, and you're going, oh my gosh, while there's Pac-Man over here, that's the graphics of the time. And then this is like, looks like the graphics of today, but then you play it and you're like, oh, it's not really controlling him. It's just kind of a choose your own adventure. It looks awesome, but the gameplay itself, but it became a zeitgeist. It's Don Bluth, American Tail End Before Time. It just, to me, just reminds me so much of the 80s. Being at Showbiz Pizza, I don't know if they had those where you were, but Showbiz Pizza, Chuck E. Cheese, seeing that game is just like,
and that's the one that's featured in Stranger Things, yes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Which was awesome to see. So are there just the 8?
The games?
Yeah, we're focusing on these 8.
Well, yeah, in the first episode will be 6 episodes. We kind of based that off of movies that made us, toys that made us, stuff like that. So those are the ones that we want to choose, and it'll be 6 of those. And if we don't get to them in this season, they'll be in the next season.
Okay.
And if any of those games aren't featured, it'll be a game that's very similar. That's just the vibe that we're going for, and that's what we want to do. And that's what we're going to do, unless just some weird legal hurdle comes before us and we have to pivot and do, Duke Nukem 3D or something instead of Wolfenstein 3D.
Sure. So how many people went into creating this list, and how big was the original list? Because you've got to narrow it down, I'm sure.
Hey, it's really me and Phil just kind of going through and doing research. What's got that nostalgia, but also is not necessarily a deep cut. These aren't deep cuts really, but not just like what you think, Pac-Man, Mario, Sonic, stuff like that everyone kind of knows the story of. But yeah, it had to have a story. It had to be something we could potentially get access to, and it had to be a game changer.
Yeah, with regards to like games being picked, honestly, Scott was the one that came up with the title "Game Changers," and that began to like laser focus us on the games to choose, because there are a lot of games you just absolutely love, a lot of games that mean something to you, and there are some games, like you said, you already sort of know the story on them because they're so hugely popular. But then there's some other games that made such a dramatic impact and changed the direction in which gaming was going to be viewed, or added something that has been now that what didn't exist before, but is now permanently there. And it may not have been the most popular game in the world. Like some of these lists may not be the most popular games that the majority of people play, but when you start to get into looking into the history of it, you realize, oh wow, it all became like this. The reason why we have this game over here that everyone knows is because this game did a thing and it changed everything. I mean, it's not a play on words. It's absolutely literal how the game did, the landscape was changed by certain games.
And not just the gaming industry, but mainstream history. I feel like it broke a lot of these broke, pop culture boundaries. Mortal Kombat, the violence, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was not a big fan of that. She said, "Do you
Yeah.
know what that name means? It means fight to
Mm-hmm.
the death."
Fight to the
And
death.
she
Yeah.
was kind of, she didn't understand what I was
Mm-hmm.
getting into. She just saw it from the outside,
Mm-hmm.
but she saw things about it without me having to tell her. And I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the games on this list not only moved gaming forward, but brought gaming into the mainstream.
Yeah. Look, when you look at a lot of strong, just kick butt female protagonists that are in motion pictures. Everybody from Sarah Connor's to Ripley to the Bride and Kill Bill. But like for real, who was the first kick butt, take no prisoners, handle any situation? It was Laura Croft. Like Laura Croft, the princess in Mario, needed to be saved. Laura Croft was like, "Ain't nobody saving me. I'm coming to get you." And it's things like that. You don't even think about it, but from a psychological level and how it impacted the zeitgeist of how we think, it put something out there that didn't really exist before. Again, the name, game changer. She changed the face of what we look at as the strong kick butt protagonist lead in a video game.
And still making games 30 years later.
30 years later.
I don't know where we are with the next one, but I'm ready for
it. Yeah.
There was the movie, that came out after that, with Angelina Jolie.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of, then you could say, like, you're talking about not just video games, but in the early 2000s, there was a lot of female protagonists like that. There was Blood Rain, there was Ultraviolet, there was Underworld,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of them, and you could
Resident Evil,
yeah, that were in movies, and that kind of, you could say Laura Croft definitely helped push that along, and now we're seeing it much more. So yeah.
Well, it's a great list of games. I can't wait to dive in with those. As far as the docuseries go, what kind of guests can we expect, and kind of some of the interviews and some kind of the background information? What can we expect with some of the personalities that we'll see?
Yeah, like Phil says really eloquently in our Kickstarter video, the people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into this, that's what we really want to focus on. So every episode might be a little bit different depending on where the story really is. But definitely the voices, the actors, the programmers, the creators, all of the above, all the people that made it what it was.
There might be names that you recognize, and there may be names that should have been recognized for these last few decades that never got their name mentioned in a public place, but they were instrumental to creating this world that we've all been able to enjoy. So so if you're looking for, like, is it going to be laden with big celebrity names? Probably not. Will it be names that you absolutely know? Yes, but I think more importantly, they're gonna be names that you should have heard of by now, and you will get to know.
That's a great perspective, because I'm sure everybody's going to learn a lot with it too. It seems like every docuseries or any gaming thing I watch, I learn new things, or all these behind the scenes people. Incredible talent behind all of those productions that you don't necessarily see. Are we going to see any rare footage of these games, or any behind the scenes? Did you find any VHS tapes from 1984 that you're able to use?
There definitely will be, exclusive stuff that hasn't been out there before, both stories and then archival as well.
Yeah, I've talked to a few people just in my career who when I work in television on a set, they always have somebody going around with a camera. So when you get done at the end of the season, you can put together a rap video. They didn't really do that for video games, but every now and then somebody will come in and they've recorded what was going on and they just got images and footage of what was really going on. Like it wasn't planned for anything, just somebody walking around with a camera going, "Hey, what are you working on?" And that sort of thing. So it's again the part of the reason for this project and why we're doing this crowdfunding is so that we could have like a good team of folks working with us that can do that kind of hard research to find out who has what and get to know the players behind the scenes, whose names, like I said, you may not know. But yeah, find out like Bobby came in one day with his little Panasonic camera. Somebody else came in with their Marty McFly JVC red camera one day.
Yeah, over the shoulder.
And you realize, oh yeah, they actually have a cassette tape of something, and you can transfer it and make it modernly digital and add it into this docuseries and incorporate it into the stories that we're going to tell about these fascinating people and these amazing games.
That's great. That's the good stuff. So how far along in production are we? Is there any kind of set target date when we can expect to see this available?
Well, it's funny. We have got some interviews already. We're into production, but it's funny you mentioned that because right now we have a Kickstarter going to help us produce the first season. And you can follow us, Game Changers Series, on Instagram. If you just Google Game Changers docuseries Kickstarter, you'll find it. But that's kind of what we're doing now to help us along because there is a lot of travel. With it being video games, it's not just like you could take a trip to New York and a trip to LA. If you're doing something about actors or TV shows, these people are all over the world, really.
The world.
That's really, what we're trying to do. So that's going to help us get there faster. So if anybody's listening to this that thinks that this would just be a really cool idea, they'd love to see it. I know I would. That's why I wanted to do it. Please check out our Kickstarter, donate whatever you can. And if not, share it with anybody you can. If you have a rich uncle, somebody like that could throw in some money, every bit counts. That just helps us do it that much faster. And it'll make the show that much better because we won't have to cut corners and say, oh, we can't travel there. We just don't have the budget. We can all, we're artists. I don't mind working for peanuts or whatever, but there's certain costs that you just can't cut.
Yeah. You got to get to where where the people are, and you've got to stay somewhere. We're not going to sleep in a rental car.
Well, we couldn't be more excited. We will drop the link to the crowdfunding campaign so you can head over there to support for the Kickstarter and the crowdfunding. That'll be above or below this video. Like I said, couldn't be more excited, guys. I'm not going to let you get out of here without one last question. We do this on almost every show with every guest. I need your guys' desert island video game. You can only bring one.
Ooh. All right. Well, I've already mentioned mine sort of in passing, and I will die on the sword of this game. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, man. Nice. Oh my gosh. Flying and trying to get the train, the most annoying thing. And then if you knew the cheat codes, there was one of them that was really janky. It was like dead Dax. It was a cheat code to get it. Dax get killed with the thing stuff that gets so cold. No, that's my game. I could play that to the end of time.
When's the last time you played it?
March.
Really?
March of this year.
I'm the same way with mine. Link to the Past, I play at least once a year. Once a year, I've got to have that adventure.
I was on the road out of state producing some other game shows. So as soon as I got back home, I got back to LA in March. And as soon as I got back home, saw the family. And then the first weekend, this is me.
Back on the sticks. Yeah.
Back on the sticks. It's been a while.
Scott?
Yeah, that's tough. I have a little CRTV here that I play games sometimes while I'm waiting for my computer to export stuff. And the game that I found that I play the most on it is this one for the Super Nintendo. It's called X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. And especially if people are watching that X-Men 97 series out right now, that's so awesome. It's like from that era. It's so much fun, and I can play it by myself. So I would say that. However, I've gotten to the point, I played it so much I can beat it in 20 minutes. So wow. Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking I might need to change that, because that would get real old if I was on a desert island. So I'm gonna have to go. Some people might say this is basic, but Super Mario World, I love that game, and there's so much to do on that game. You can beat it however as
fast as you can, or as detailed as you can.
Fast as you can, or you can get everything. Go through the whole Star Road and the secret zone and change everything to fall. I always try to get every single level, because you see a star by your amount of levels. So that's probably what I'd have to say.
Good ones.
It's just a good game. There's a reason why it's popular.
Yeah, and it holds up totally. Like, that game could have came out yesterday and charged $60 for it, and people would be like, "This is perfect."
Now, I know you've already said yours about a million times, but what is your game?
Mine's Zelda: Link to the Past.
Oh, you're wearing it on you right there.
Super Nintendo. Right. I just so happen to be wearing the shirt today. Nice. I can play it anytime, anywhere. I can almost play it with my eyes closed, but sometimes I just need that adventure. It's kind of like my calming, whatever. Yeah. So if I'm feeling like anxious or stressed, that's usually when I go to it. Yeah. So it's just one of those for me. Absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. It is Game Changers. Like I said, we will drop the link so you can support the crowdfunding campaign. Phil Moore, Scott Barber. We will see you on Game Changers super soon, we hope. Thank you so much for joining us on Birds and Swords. You guys take care, okay?
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having us.
Thanks.